Today we are excited to have with us Steve Farrar, who has spent the past hour downstairs in the Lillian Dixie Morton Children's Room as our community reader this week. He is now here to give an exciting presentation on the national parks of the Pacific. But before we get going on that, I just want to share a bit of Steve's backstory. And for those that don't know me, my name is Amy Wolf. I'm the programming coordinator here at the Osterville Village Library. Thank you so much for being with us today, and to our friends joining us on Zoom, thank you for being here as well. Steve Farrar grew up in the Boston suburb of Medfield and experienced his first national parks as an impressionable 14-year-old on the way to the 1969 National Boy Scout Jamboree in Idaho. The 5-day bus trip from Salt Lake City included stops in Grand Teton National Park, Yellowstone National Park, and Glacier National Park, which sparked a fascination with natural beauty that has evolved into Steve's lifelong passion for visiting our national parks. His adventures exploring all 63 parks include hiking to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, scuba diving the coral reefs of the Virgin Islands, camping among the wolves on Isle Royale, scaling rock faces in Yosemite, and climbing to the summits of Mount Rainier and Denali. Steve's pictures and stories of his travels are sure to stoke your personal wanderlust, so be prepared to be inspired. Here's Steve.
To Pacific. I had yeah. Do you have the copy of the park?
I can make another copy.
If you'd like a list of the anyway, I had to divide up the city. Everybody wants to keep it to an hour. You can only do 5 or 6 parks in an hour to do them justice. So I have
Yes. How do I make it bigger?
talks to
There.
Now, we're still talking about getting to Utah to Peter brought up the information. Good for her, because she's right there.
But that's not on.
She makes a point to do.
It's supposed to be on 3 of them.
It's on, supposed to, first of all, you gotta get it on TV on.
These are the 6 parks. 2 in California, 1 off of California, 2 in Hawaii, and in between Fiji and Tahiti, there's a U.S. national park, American Samoa. So, without further ado, let's go. Very historic picture. That was a few years ago, but you will never, ever see, you can't pose for that picture. I'll show you why. Anyway, that was 85. Redwoods on the coast, go north, go along on Route 1 is a magnificent drive, magnificent opportunity, but it's way up at the top, just below the Oregon border. Quick timeline, 1800s, 1825. No Europeans had seen the redwoods yet, but there are indigenous folks in the area. Jedediah Smith was the first one European to, they brought him in and showed it to him. How about, what's the zoning in Osterville? Quarter acre, half acre. How about 2 million acres of old growth redwood trees? 2 million acres. A few years later, California gold rush. They find gold in the area. Not very good for the redwoods. Within 3 years, Eureka in the area had 9 full-time booming sawmills to keep up with the lodging requirements for all the prospectors and everybody flooding into the area. Well, they didn't have chainsaws in 1825, in 1850. Can you imagine with an axe looking at one of these trees and saying, I'm up for it?
It's not coming from the
That's a
TV.
serious undertaking. Now, if you show these pictures, these are not my pictures. These are actually archived. When one comes down, it's such an event that everybody gathers and stuff. You show these pictures to kids today, and And the automatic default is gonna be, that's Photoshop. You know, they put those people in there. That can't be real. It is real. That's the size of a redwood tree. So the problem is they got to get the piggies to market. Yes, there's a lot of board feet in those logs.
No,
Gotta get it to the
just
mill.
turn the volume up again here like I did last time, I guess, huh? How do we turn the volume up on the laptop?
I don't know if that's for me or not, but so that one piece of wood to transport, you're talking an eight horse chain to drag one log. They built a railroad over to the mills.
Turn the volume up on the laptop.
Per railroad truck. That's the size of a redwood. So away they went, and within not too many years, 70 years, they're getting eradicated. They're just clear cut. There was no thought of future growth or save this and stuff. It took 70 years for the save the redwoods, the effort to go. That worked in local state parks were set up to save some of the area. It took until 68 for the feds to get involved. With 90% of all of the, I mean, there's 50,000.
You know what? If we read what's on the right,
No, you can't read that.
Parcel.
well, said that 90% of the original redwoods wiped
That's all
out
the-
by loggers.
So they're now patchwork
I can't understand. Last time, at least I could get the volume up.
interspersed,
And it's a bit difficult to hear the speaker.
three.
Maybe she needs it.
Jedediah Smith is up in that piece.
There's a reflection, isn't there?
37 miles coast.
Like on the screen.
Jedediah Smith, Del Norte Coast, and Prairie Creek. The light green are state parks interspersed with the dark green, which are federal. So now if you go there, this is the sign. There's no more Redwood National Park. It's Redwood National and State Parks. So glad I took the picture when I did. Since 94. So this is one of the more popular hikes is the Lady Bird Johnson Grove. Quick story on that one because Lyndon Johnson was from Texas, and you don't tell Texans what will be. He was a pretty straightforward guy.
You're getting the speaker.
I don't know if you remember the
Laptop,
Lady Bird
it's
Johnson
not-
wife had
speakers here.
a beautification program where she wanted no billboard. She wanted
Now they turned off the lights. That's why I can't see anything anymore. Okay.
to
I can't figure, it's on the top row and I can't figure out which one is the one to hit the.
Mute.
The Secretary of the Interior has charge of the National Park Service, takes an act of Congress and a sitting to the president to form an.
Can we pause the presentation perhaps?
The Interior goes to Johnson and says, my wife would like a grove of redwoods named after her in the new Redwood National Park. So the secretary kind of looked at his feet and shuffled around, and Johnson, ever the direct one, says, is there a problem? And actually there was, because the rule is there's no memorial name after a living person. You can do it after, you can have Teddy Roosevelt National Park after Teddy's gone, but not while a person is alive. So he couldn't give Johnson what he wanted, the name of grove. So Johnson says, do you or do you not want a national park? So here's the dedication of the Lady Bird Johnson Grove. There's Johnson and Lady Bird, there's Dick Nixon and Trish, there's Reagan over here. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot, microphone. Hopefully this is better, sorry, you on Zoom have missed the stories to date. This is an interesting picture of Lady Bird Johnson Grove being dedicated. A hike in the Redwoods. Advice in advance, schedule a chiropractic session for afterwards. Redwoods tower 300 feet. We don't even have 100-foot trees in New England. If you haven't stood there, you can look at all the pictures you want. It does not compute what 300-foot tree looks like. So you're gonna walk around all day and be just looking straight up. The one coolest thing is that the canopy at the top blocks all the sunlight, so you don't have to stay on the trail. In a national park, you can pretty much go anywhere you want. You don't have to rumble through bullbriar and undergrowth. There's nothing else grows. There's all it is delicate ferns underneath that get the filtered sunlight. So there's no possible way to take a bad picture. Anywhere you turn and shoot, it's postcard material. But that being said, still shots are tough to convey the wondrousness of these trees because it's just, you're not used to it. And there's no relative scale. There's no buildings beside them to show how big they are and stuff. To give you an idea, Leaning Tower, you may have seen the Capitol, the Statue of Liberty up on top of the pedestal is 300 feet. Big Ben's Tower, 379 feet. Hyperion is the tallest of the redwoods. So, if you take the time, you just lie on your back and look up, and it's just mind-boggling to experience the redwoods. Why? Why do they grow there? You can have redwoods. I was down in Queenstown, New Zealand, and looked across the park, and there's a redwood tree in the park that San Francisco had sent to them or something. They'll grow in similar climates, but not to this height. There's two key elements as to why they grow to that. One is the rain, the water source. The jet stream comes across, hits the Pacific, you're dumping 60 to 100 plus inches of rain a year there. So there's plenty of water. And we have the Gulf Coast along the Atlantic that keeps southern coast of Ireland and Iceland from freezing. They have a similar Pacific coast that keeps the area from freezing. So lots of rain, lots of water, and no freezing. The plants like it. The biggest reason is the thermodynamics of the heat pump of California. The Central Valley, if you've ever been to San Francisco, every afternoon, the Golden Gate Bridge disappears because the Central Valley heats up, warm air rises, that goes up, draws in the cool air off the coast, and with it comes the fog. I lived in the Sunset District below the park for a year. I know every afternoon you get the fleece out in the middle of the summer because the cold air is coming in. Well, that's what bathes the trees. If you're 300 feet tall, the normal trees draw nutrients and water up through the root system. It works with capillary action and it sucks up into the tree. Well, that can work to a certain height, but not to 300 feet. It's not that strong. So without the daily bathing of the fog, what that does is provide moisture to the needles up at the top of the tree. If you don't have that dynamic at work, you can't grow the tree that tall. It won't go. So that's why you only find them to their true majestic height in Northern California. So that's what a trail looks like going off hiking in the redwoods. Some of the must-see places, the giant tree is the biggest one. You can walk around in the parks, but high foot traffic areas, they'll have a boardwalk so that you're not compacting the earth around the roots, around the popular trees. You take pictures and nothing else. You can't take anything from a national park. Redwoods have incredibly beautiful grain of wood. They're oddly enough, they're red, but very tight grain, like a maple tree. Super for furniture, coffee tables and stuff. If you find a burl forms where there's an irritation of the tree. Like if you get a cut and your white blood cells go to treat the infection, that's what a burl is on a tree. There's pests or something in there. And it grows a big the grain, the interwoven grain of a burl wood is highly sought after by the artisans. Some of them a little too much. This guy took a chainsaw in the park to a burl. They caught him. 700 hours of community service he's doing, and plus a 11,000 fine for taking something. Humboldt State University is up in Northern California. They have a program. If you're into rappelling, you can take a course to go up into the canopies of the redwoods and study them. Different way to see them. There are 37 miles of coastline in addition to the redwoods and the trees, which are the main attraction. Gold Bluffs is in Prairie Creek. They're named that because of the flecks of gold that filtered down out of the sand cliffs there. Not enough to be commercially viable, but hence the name Gold Bluff Cliffs. You can get campsites there. It faces west, so every night you're looking at the sunset. It's pretty gorgeous. You can walk from the parking area at Gold Bluffs to this Fern Canyon. The cliffs are covered with ferns. It's an amazing place. It's normally ferns are on horizontal ground. These are on vertical cliffs, and it's like Velcro. They're absolutely gorgeous. That's a fun take. You can just walk in the riverbed up the canyon. There aren't too many places in New England where you're going to get shots like that. Del Norte coast is just that. There's overlooks with picnic tables and stuff. So as you're standing at the overlook, that's looking south. And if you turn the other way and look north, you get the sea stacks that used to be connected that are now eroded away. And so that's actually in Redwoods National Park. Jedediah Smith is the northernmost of the three state parks. This one, just to give you a size, when it does tumble, it's not a sequoia. They're not massive in diameter, but they're pretty decent size. Yeah, you can get very artistic with the pictures. It's a very unique experience, but it falls in the category, if you're trying to tell kids or bring grandchildren or kids there, it's they don't know what they don't know. They don't understand what's waiting for them there until you go and experience it. So that's Redwoods. It's on the Pacific because of the need of the Pacific fog. Pinnacles. Pinnacles is right due east of Pebble Beach, actually. It's inland. It's near the Central Valley. One of the newer parks. It was actually doing quite fine as a national monument. California's got a thing. They were tied with Alaska for most national parks. They each had 8. So California recently upgraded one of their national monuments to national park status. So now California's got 9. Teddy wanted to save it. He set it aside as a monument with 2,000 acres in 2013. When it got promoted to national park status, they expanded it to 27,000. 27,000 acres sounds big. The 8 Alaskan parks, Kenai Fjords is the smallest of the Alaskan parks. It's 670,000 acres versus 27,000. So it's not on the scale of the big Alaskan parks. Why is it on the Pacific show? Well, you heard of the San Andreas Fault? Los Angeles is going to end up neighbor to San Francisco eventually. The confluence of the Pacific continental plate banging into the North American created the San Andreas. There's a tectonic plate shift to the northwest of the Pacific Plate is moving to the northwest. About the same distance that your fingernail, the rate that your fingernail grows. It's half an inch a year. So it's not very noticeable, but every once in a while, the rocks reach a point of compression where they have to, you get a San Francisco 1906 earthquake where the pressure's too much. So down here is half of a volcano that got split by the San Andreas Fault. The other half is on the Pacific side of the divide. Half of the volcanoes down here, the other half is moving north at a half an inch a year. It's now 195 miles northwest of the other half. I don't know how many times half inch goes into 195 miles, but it's been a while. It's been traveling. That's part of the Pacific Plate, which is why it's here. So the rhyolite volcanic spires that are there used to be way down south. The other half is still down there. They say there are no roads to the park. You can come in from Monterey and there's a west entrance, or you can come from the Central Valley and there's an east entrance. That's why there's no road through the park. This is why I didn't think it really needed national park protection. Nobody was going to be putting condos up, on the border or something. It's out in the middle of nowhere. So I was there in August. It's the Central Valley. The visitor center was 102 degrees at 9:30 in the morning. And I'm there to go hike up to the black spires. Try as she might, the park ranger couldn't dissuade me. Oh, why don't you hike along the stream in the cottonwoods? There's shade and stuff. I said, I didn't fly from Boston to go see cottonwoods. I want to go see the pinnacles. She would be the one on call to come try to find me if something happened. So she didn't want me up there. There are signs, extreme heat, noon to 5. The Condor Gulch Trail is what I wanted to hike. You didn't want me to hike there, but I did anyway. Which was kind of funny because 100 yards up the trail, I'm going up to the pinnacles there, but there's this tree that looked like somebody had used it for target practice. It's completely riddled. And on closer inspection, there's nuts. There's acorns in each of the holes. Like, what the devil is this? So did a little research and actually saw the acorn woodpeckers. There's a species of woodpeckers. This is their granary tree. They get together, all the ones in, I don't know how big a radius, but they will pick one tree, upwards of 50,000 holes in one tree, and they are perfectionists. They exactly fit an acorn in each one. Now, why they can get them out and the squirrels or other can't, I don't know, but that's their silo, that's their storage. I've never seen anything like it before.
50,000 holes doesn't damage the tree.
I don't know how long the tree lasts. They may have to move on to another one, but God damn, they are industrious. So anyway, that's on the Condor Gulch, runs into the high peaks to get up the top there. Go to all the parks, you're gonna see wildlife. This is one of the more bizarre wildlife sightings that you'll see, because they are wild, but they are numbered. These are California condors. My van isn't 10 feet long. The wingspan of these creatures, oh damn, I stepped on that. Sorry. 10-foot wingspan is the largest North American land winged bird at all. They are enormous. They were actually extinct in the wild. They had some down at the San Diego Zoo. There were a couple of zoos that had them. They've been releasing them. There are 3 national parks, Zion, Grand Canyon and Pinnacles, they've been releasing captive condors to try to bring them back. They're now up almost 350 in the wild, as well as some, yeah, another couple hundred in captivity. So they're off the extinct list. There aren't too many places where you can see them, and that was my destination. That's why I was going up Condor Gulch. Boy, when you're up there and all of a sudden the sun gets blocked out and you look up and, oh my word, it's a memorable sight. So that's the Pinnacles, after which the park is named. Very solid granite upthrusts that are like mecca for climbers, because they can, if you possess the ability, you can hang from a little nubbin and it's not going to slide off like slate or something. So there's a lot of climbers that go up there and practice. If you're a bug person, this is the place for you. I had no idea there were 500 species of moths in existence. This is within the borders of the park. 500 different species of moths. And butterflies, they are the pollinators. If you do go in the springtime, it's spectacular that they pollinate all the, it's a very short time. It's like third week in April to early May is about the only time you'll get shots like that. But all of the volcanic stuff goes away and you get color. Bees, the highest bee diversity of any place on earth. There's 400. This is a display in one of the visitor centers. Somebody is really, really good to be able to discern the difference between 400 different types of bees. That's beyond my capacity, but like I say, if you're a bug person, this place is for you. You hike around Bear Gulch. They call it a cave. It's not really a cave. Those pinnacles, if there's a crack, water always wins. Eventually the crack will have water in it, the water will freeze, and water is the only element that when it transfers from liquid to solid, it gets bigger by 10%. So it wedges in there, breaks off, and you have these overhangs. They call them caves. You can go down in there. They do have bats. It's not like Carlsbad Caverns where you're going to get the volume, but there are different 14 different species. This is the long-eared bat. When the bats are breeding, they can close the gate here to keep humans out, but the bats can go in and out unencumbered. There are other wildlife, but you got to be pretty good eyesight to check them out. The camouflage is good if you want to survive in the wild. This is a bobcat that blends very well with the tree. Anyway, condors are the main attraction wildlife wise. You go there. They cruise, you go either morning or afternoon, and your chances of seeing the condors are increased. During the day, they'll grab the thermals and head out. It's over 100 miles out to Monterey, but they go out to the coast and go and feed, and then they'll just ride the waves back. If you have a 10-foot wings, it's like a hang glider, basically. That's a trip to Pinnacles. All right, there's one more in California, the Channel Islands. Channel Islands National Park is just off shore from Ventura. Another 1980 park. There's 5 islands that make up the national park, the 4 up there, then Santa Barbara down here. The other islands are not part of the park system. Nowadays, you have to get an official concessionaire to get a ride out there. In the good old days, I just jumped a ride with a Coast Guard boat and had a free ride out to Anacapa for the day. That's the main visit one. Go out there and spent the day up on the top. So the boat comes in, you got to climb up to the ridge up the top, And there's a lighthouse on one island, on one end of the island. The other end has an overview of a lagoon. There are I think six or seven species of pinnipeds, eared seals that live in the waters there. And which is why you have sharks off of the area, because that's their food source. But the protected little harbors, the kids will come play. They're basically surfing. I sat for an hour looking down at them, watching them go out into the water and then ride the waves into the beach and then turn around and go back out and stuff. They were having a ball. Each park has a symbol, half dome at Yosemite or delicate arch at Arches or something. They have a sea arch, which is the symbol of Channel Islands. The concessionaire will, I don't know what I can do to change that. You can kayak around there, but to get a real feel for it, you want to scuba dive. The kelp beds there are the marine version of the redwoods. The kelp beds can be 100 feet tall. They need sunlight to grow. They can grow 18 inches in a day, but they're not in 100 feet deep water because they wouldn't get sunlight. So they sway back and forth with the tide. The habitat that it provides, either down at the bottoms or in the middle or up at the top, all different. So if you scuba dive down there, you can see them floating sideways. There's all kinds of stuff to find down below. The seals you're in their area, so they're going to come check you out. They're very inquisitive. Now, I guess today's masks are clearer on the sides, but the older ones used to be solid. So you basically had tunnel vision. You could only see what was straight ahead of you. Can you imagine turning your head and seeing? They don't even have teeth. They're not, the sea bass aren't dangerous, but they're 800-pound fish. I think it would be time for a change of wetsuit. If you turned around and saw this thing. Urchins are problems. Urchins, the kelp plants don't have a root system. They adhere to either rock or coral formation with what's called a holdfast. And that's how they stay in one place. Well, sea urchins eat the holdfasts. So if they proliferate, they'll eat the base of the kelp beds and the seaweed goes away. So what you need are sea otters, because sea otters eat sea urchins. The population keeps things in check. The otters love the kelp because they can wrap themselves, the fronds up at the top have air bladders in them, so they float the plant. The sea otters can take a nap. They just wrap themselves or they use it for having lunch. They use the seaweed to keep them afloat while they eat the sea urchins. Anyway, it's all connected. Except the Channel Islands. Channel Islands have never been connected to the mainland. They're not like the sea stacks off of Oregon or Washington coast. They have always been separate. They rode in actually like on the Pacific Plate. So there are endemic species of both plants and animals that have evolved on the Channel Islands that are not found anywhere else in the world. 150 different species. They just found 1994. They've found fossils of mammoths other places in North America, but the ones they found on Channel Islands, there's not a lot to eat out there. So they're pygmy. They're very small. It's the only place they've ever found a pygmy mammoth. The island fox, I didn't bring a ruler, 12 inches tall. It's the smallest canine anywhere in the world. A full-grown adult is 12 inches. 6 of the 8 Channel Islands, you have them running wild. They're not found anywhere else in the world. That's the only place you can find them. The northern shore of the islands are subject to the pounding of the waves coming across the Pacific, which hollow out caves. There's over 100 of them. Some of them are pretty big. You can take tours to go visit them. They're good size. 70 of them are over 200 feet deep that you can take a boat. You can kayak into them, but hard hats are good. As if there's a surge of water, you're gonna go up and hard hats are dur. Santa Cruz is one of the other ones. This one you can pull into. That's the harbor, actually. Sorry, where I was up on the ridge here watching the pinnipeds. This is down at Santa Cruz kayaking, or Santa Barbara, the one that's way down the bottom. Seals all over the place. They're surrounded. One of the San Miguel is essentially our version of the Galapagos. It's a rookery. You're not allowed to, humans aren't allowed to go on there. It's set aside just for the 6 different species of pinnipeds are eared seals. And there's a lot of them. They like it there. So they come ashore to mate. An elephant seal? You think of seals balancing the ball and at SeaWorld and stuff. How about 15 feet long and a 5,000 pound seal? 5,000 pounds. They have the largest lung capacity. We now have submersibles where you can go down and explore the big deep trenches off of California. The scientists have been down 5,000 feet under and seen elephant seals swimming around down there. They can stay underwater for an hour. They're mammals. They have to breathe air. An hour and a half they can stay down for. So serious lung capacity. You don't want to mess with them. 15-foot seals. So anyway, that's a quick tour of the Channel Islands. All right, leave the mainland. We'll head out to Hawaii, Haleakala. Our first stop is on Maui. The squiggly red line is actually a road. You can drive all the way up to the 10,000-foot summit crater. Most of the park is on the leeward side, windward, downstream. So the rain comes across, hits the crater, and then the rainforest brings it all the way down to the Kipahulu section, which is all jungle and rainforest. There's a better map. So it's dry up at the top, but then all the water comes down and you have rainforest. The road to the summit, it can be cloudy and even rainy down below, but at 10,000 feet, you're above the clouds. So it's absolutely gorgeous. The crater itself is where the astronauts trained before they went to the moon because of such a similar landscape. It's very barren, very dry. That's why the moon astronauts went there. Where you find the silver sword, the Haleakala silver sword. It's a member of the sunflower family. The poor guys, they live 50 years, right? They bloom once. They send up a 6-foot stalk. It's got something like 600 seeds. It's their magnum opus. The seeds go and it dies. It flowers once in 50 years. They're not found anywhere else on Earth. Only in the crater of Haleakala is that species found. there are observatories up there. You're up so high, the air is so clear and uncluttered. There's no human light backlighting anything, so the crystal clear views. There's big observatories up top. Haleakala, the name is Hawaiian for House of the Sun. We went up New Year's Eve. We got up at 3 a.m. with my 3 boys and my wife and I. Got picked up to be up at the 10,000-foot summit for sunrise on January 1st. The temperature changes, goes down 1.5 degrees, 3.5 degrees. I think I have it. Anyway, there's sunrise. So it's cloudy and miserable down below. You're up above, so we get sunrise. What we did was then hop on bikes and rode bicycles from 10,000 feet down to the beach, which was interesting because Galen, the youngest one, you know how to get to Space Mountain, they have the height requirements. You got to be this tall to get on the ride and stuff. He wasn't tall enough to qualify to get on the bike. So we had a little back and forth with you're going to lose 5 paying customers. We're not going to go without him. You'll lose 5 of us if you say no to him. So the agreement was he can go as long as he's in front and nobody passes him. Well, the 2 other brothers pull him aside immediately and say, don't you touch those brakes. So down we went. It's very cold up at the top, which you don't think of when we're in Hawaii, you know, it's that's the road that you ride. You used to be able to ride bikes. You're going to hear throughout the stories of how diligently the Park Service is saving you from yourself. You can't do this anymore because it's been deemed to be too dangerous. We had a fun time. The bus or the truck that brought your bikes up there for you follows behind, so you're not going to get run over by somebody else. And as you drop down, it warms up. Nice to have the truck to put your one piece in and stuff. And you end up down for a champagne breakfast on the beach. You don't have to pedal an awful lot, but you do want those brakes to hold. It's a memorable experience. Speaking of which, if you've ever been to Maui and driven the road to Hana around the east side, note the concerted lack of guardrails. They basically put a road in where one doesn't belong. It's straight up on one side and straight down on the other. And if you've ever been to San Francisco, you know, Lombard Street, that's the road to Hana. That's the switchbacks that you drive. It's very good to have 2 drivers, and the driver doesn't do the sightseeing, the passenger may, and then you switch on the way back. There's all kinds of gullies with waterfalls cascading down that you want to stop and look at. So you get down to Hana, and that's the town, collection of buildings in the southeast corner. There's the Kipahulu section is on the shore. That's where all the water comes down, and there's these, they used to call them the 7 sacred pools. As the waterfalls come down, they'll pool up and then overflow and down into another one. There's a series of 7 different ones. We spent an entire day with the boys. There's Jake and Galen checking out Brother Brooks. So you had to clear about 10 feet out to not land on lava to make the pool. And they weren't really sure if they wanted to follow that and stuff. We did all 7 pools. It was a wonderful day. No more swimming. You can't do it anymore because somebody didn't jump out far enough and got hurt. So that they don't want you to do that. So now they've spoiled it for everyone. You can't go there anymore. So I found a different way to explore. This is we took off from the Hana airport in a powered hang glider. They used to call them ultralights. That's me in the red. We're getting a tour over the rainforest. That's a 400-foot waterfall down below, which if you're not afraid of heights, it's a cool way to see things. I had, previously, I was a hang glider. So he shut off the engine and let me fly around for a while. It was very fun. Down from the visitor center at the Kitwahulu section, there's a Pippawa trail that will take you out into a bamboo forest, which is a bizarre experience if the wind's blowing. You know I think they call them rain sticks, where you put them up and they make noise. They have seeds inside them or something. Well, that's in a bamboo stalks are hollow. That's what they use to make those. Well, if the wind's blowing, they're very close together, and if the wind blows, they bang together. It's like the natives are restless. There's noise all through the forest. It's very bizarre. But I went over to the base of the waterfall that I had just been watching from above, and there's other people there oohing and eyeing at it and stuff. And I kind of said, "Oh, you should see it from above. It's gorgeous." Well, they assumed I was pulling their leg until wonders of modern technology. I could show them on my phone the pictures there. Oh, you were up there. It's kind of fun. Plants. If you're a plant fan, a gardening club member, this is Mecca. There are not in all of the Hawaiian Islands, just within the borders of the Haleakala National Park, 850 different species of plants. So you know the laminated folding guides you get that identify the plant? There's maybe 6 or 8 on a page. There's 850 plants in the park. You would need an accordion of a guide to do it. 300 of those species are not found anywhere else in the world. They're endemic to just the Hawaiian Islands. I'm not going to show you 800 pictures of flowers and stuff, but the state flower, that when you get off in Honolulu, the lei that you get is the hibiscus, the state flower. Some of them are very unique. This is the only bird pollinated geranium in the world. The honey creeper, you see the curvature of the petals? The honey creeper has evolved with its beak matching the curvature of the geranium. So it's the only one that can get down into the nectar inside the thing. There's all kinds of examples of bizarre, Darwin would have liked the Hawaiians. Plumerias, these are just off the side of the trail. This isn't a wonder, tended garden or anything. They're all over the bird of paradises. People will go out in their backyard and pick the wild flowers and put them out. There's a vase at the end of the driveway, $1 a plant in a little box for collections there. They're all over the place. Very, very, very. Some of them, this is an African non-indigenous species, but it likes the climate there. If you're interested in parks, the rangers offer a ranger-led tour. If he hasn't been canned. I intentionally tried to pose questions to stump him. Walking encyclopedia, this guy was incredible. He could hold forth on anything you pointed to. He could tell you the story of what the plants were. Their rangers are awesome. The ones that stay in one park for a long time really know their stuff. So back at the top of the crater, the flip side of, instead of watching sunrise, if you turn 180 degrees, you get to look west and watch sunset. So that's how, or you could stay up there after sunset. Those are not clouds. That's the Milky Way. You never thought that there were so many stars in the sky as what are visible from up there. Pretty impressive. All right, so the second national park in the Hawaiian Islands is down on the Big Island. That's my wife doesn't like it when I say my 3 sons. She figures she had a hand in it. I keep telling her Fred McMurray didn't star in Our 3 Sons. Anyway, that's the three boys at volcanoes. 1916, one of the early ones. That's actually the year that the Park Service was formed. Two of the most active volcanoes anywhere in the world, Kilauea and Mauna Loa. I don't want to go too geology professor on you, but my advice, if you're going to go to national parks, is do a little homework beforehand. If the more you know in advance, they are wondrous. You can stand on the edge of the Grand Canyon knowing nothing about geology and your jaw will drop. There's wonderful vistas. But if you know a little bit more about what you're looking at, it just enhances what you're looking at. There is a hot spot under the continental plate. The Big Island is currently in touch with the hotspot. Remember pinnacles shifting to the northwest? That's how each of the Hawaiian Islands were formed. At one time, each of them were in contact with the hotspot for a few million years. They're shield volcanoes. They're not conical. They just splay out. As they detach, they go extinct. They're not dormant. They're extinct. They're no longer in touch with the heat source. If you keep extending it, it's the Midway Islands, it's the atolls. They're all in a row. That's why they're all shifting to the northwest. Hawaii volcanoes is the southern shore of the Big Island is the one currently in touch. If you measure, they're 13,000 feet, Mauna Loa. But if you measure from their base, they're the tops of shield volcanoes. The water level hits, they keep going down. They would be the two tallest mountains anywhere on Earth. And actually, Haleakala would be the fourth if you measure them from summit to base. Mount Everest gets in there just above Haleakala, but we don't measure down to the base. So they say, oh, it's 13,000 feet. Yeah, well, it's over 30 if you go down to the bottom. Up on the rim of Kilauea, there's a great place for a lunch, overlooking the crater. There is a crater rim drive. You can drive around Kilauea in quieter times. There actually is the rim overlook is up here. There's actually a trail that goes through, this was taken earlier, through the caldera of Kilauea. Well, this was last week. Since December, it's been actively, they call it fountaining. It's been flowing since the early 80s, just oozing lava down the sides calmly. Every once in a while, it starts erupting, and it's been, nobody gets hurt, but it's not the time to hike across the caldera. It's very active. When the lava flows in volume, it flows out, it gets in touch with the air is colder, the outer surface chills down, but the inner is protected. The lava flows out, you get left with a lava tube. This is one of the more accessible lava. There are not a lot of places where you can get up close and personal in a lava tube, but the Thurston is 1/3 of a mile long. You can go down into it. They have a stairway. You can go down, and this used to be flowing lava inside here, and the outer skin of it, if you will, cooled. They've leveled the floor and put some electric lighting in there, but it's a fun take. So the lava tube is up at the top where the crater is. There's a 18-mile drive called Chain of Craters that comes down almost 4,000 feet from the top of the Kilauea volcano down to the seashore. That's where the lava field flows out. You can go anywhere in a national park, but you should use common sense. This is one of their symbols. The sea arch is just solid lava that was flowing over, gets pounded by the waves, and it forms an arch. Pahoehoe is the viscous. It's not rapid flowing lava. There's two different types. This is an example. It's like molasses. It just kind of glops along. We got in trouble with the Rangers. We went a little further than we should have been. When the bottoms of your sneakers start melting, maybe you're a little too close. You can get where what's very deceptive is that the top layer skins over and you can't see that it's molten lava below. It's like a potato chip thickness. So you don't want to plunge your foot into the area that hasn't quite solidified. But this is what Kilauea has been doing for the last 20, 30 years, is you could go all the time and see this. If you go out to the edge, the shelf, you can watch basically the island grow. The lava is flowing down, it hits the water and adds to the island. Since 2020, Kilauea has had 6 different times when the gentle flow of lava has gone into fountaining mode, one of which is current. It's doing it now. Very memorable. We went back, I brought my oldest son Brooks back at midnight to go up. We sat up on that high ridge for over an hour just watching. And then there's not a lot of places you can get up close and personal with flowing lava safely. And it's a memorable park experience. Fog is gotta be careful of the volcanic fog. It's, you know, probably had a slide about it. It's very acidic. You don't want to sit downwind of a vent and breathe it in. It's not good. All right, so we have one more. We're gonna go to American Samoa. I laugh because it's basically equidistant from LA to Honolulu as it is from Honolulu to Pago Pago. About a 5.5 hour flight. They go twice a week, Hawaiian Airlines from Honolulu down to American Samoa. So like there's Fiji, there's Tahiti, and in between is American Samoa. The only national park that the federal government doesn't own. We just entered into a 50-year lease with, there's 6 villages inside of it, but we've leased the red area on 3 different islands, actually. I don't know when the lease is up, so we have access to it, but the government doesn't own the lands. Mount Oliva, this is the harbor at Pago Pago is, it's a shield volcano. It's the same way that the Hawaiian Islands formed. The flooded Pago Pago Harbor is a flooded caldera. It's the top of the volcano. World War II, we needed a base for our Pacific Fleet, so we built a Navy base there. And then after the war, we basically gave it to them, and that's what they used for their cruise ships. I mean, it's very deep water because it's a caldera. There's no shallow volcanoes 3 miles deep. So if you're going to go to the park, the Mount Oliva is 1,600 feet. It's not very high, but you leave from down here, the Pagasa, and then you just climb up the ridge up to the high point. Well, when I went there, it was March of 2020. At the time, there were no incidents of COVID in the Samoan Islands, and they wanted to keep it that way. So when you get off the plane, you had to sit with an NIH person and go through it. I didn't have any symptoms or anything, but because my travel had started in Boston, where there were cases, I got quarantined. If you got to get quarantined, an island in the South Pacific has it all over Newark, New Jersey. Hope nobody's from Newark. So I was supposed to stay in my resort for 14 days. Well, I landed on Monday. I was going home back on Thursday. For the most part, I observed. I didn't go downtown and shop. Actually, the visitor centers, all the government buildings were all closed. So you couldn't go get your little stamp at the thing. I hired a taxi to bring me over here, the You Are Here road. And then I said, well, I'll hike in the middle of the day. You're near the equator. You learn why people take siestas in midday. I figured I'd hike midday and lessen the chance that I'd be exposed to any other hikers. Well, it worked. I didn't see anyone else. It was a 6 t-shirt hike. Really not a smart idea. But that's the trail. They're hiking along the ridge. So the one thing that I wanted to see, in addition to getting to the top of Mount Oliva, this is pre-selfie stick. I don't do selfie sticks, so, and nobody's with me, so any pictures, as far as my hand would go, that's all I could do. Or nestle in among the hibiscus and stuff. I had the place to myself. So what I wanted to see, there's not a lot of mammals on the Samoan Islands, but they do have a flying fox, a fruit bat. And I was hoping to catch a glimpse of one. Well, there's one hanging upside down, and I was all excited, oh, I see one. Well, it's the largest bat in the world. They have a 5-foot wingspan. So I'm hiking along the top of the ridge, there's no trees above me, and all of a sudden the sun would be blocked out, and you'd look up, you can't take anything from a national park. So there's fruit trees growing in the rainforest all on there, but there's no one to come get the fruit. It just rots and falls off. Well, that's what would attract a fruit bat. So there were hundreds of them. They were everywhere. You didn't have to squint and hope you see one. They were all over the place because there's all this food for them that nobody could come collect the fruit. So they got it. So anyway, I saw my share of fruit bats in the middle of the day. You get up to the top and the Seabees had built this pagoda, very out of place, up there where you could sit and look down at the harbor. There's my resort that I was supposed to be staying at, where you could skin dive off the snorkel in the coral reef. That's the flooded caldera. Yeah, it was a nice day to go up there. Anyway, so that's coming up the gentle slope of the ridge. You can get to the summit from the north side, but it goes up the steep side of the volcano. Well, the soil, it's too steep for the soil to stay put. It erodes. There's nothing that holds it. So the only way to get up there is a series of ladders. It's like climbing the Empire State Building about 3 times using the stairs. There's just a series of ladders so that the soil erodes. It's unstable. So you got to use that to just, it's like a Stairmaster workout, basically. You're just going up and up and up. So if that's your thing, you can go up on Vatia, the North Shore. There's not a lot of Motel 6s on American Samoa. There are a couple of expats that have places you can stay, hotels, but the Park Service has arranged that there are 9 different villages within the borders of the land that we've leased. You can have a homestay program where you can stay at a villager's hut if you want to go native, if you want an experience. They'll take you out and you can be taught how to throw the net, and the weights trap the fish, and that's your supper. And then you go dig a pit. I was gonna say Hawaiian, Islanders version of a Cape Cod clam bake. Anyway, you can have a home experience if you want. A lot of the national parks like Zion, you can't drive into anymore because of the smog from vehicles. It's cluttering the air, it's polluting the air. Not a concern here. American Samoa, NOAA uses American Samoa as the baseline of air purity for the entire planet. That's how clean it is. So what you've got is absolute nirvana. A lot of plants, a lot of very, very, and nothing, no industry belching smoke into the air. It is the rim of a volcano, so they make the sea cliffs are some of the tallest anywhere in the world. They're 200 or 300-foot cliffs that are up above the water. Not easy to get to. There's not a lot of trails there. Tutila is the main island. If you go to Ofu, it's an 8-hour ferry ride if you don't. I think there is a very small airport. You could take a little puddle jumper there or an 8-hour ferry to get to it. It connects to Olosega. There's a walkway that's how far it is between islands. There's a bridge, but this is another section of the park. 350 acres of absolutely pristine coral reef. You don't need to scuba here. You could just, it's not very deep. Almost 1,000 different species of fish. That's twice as many as Hawaii has. And Hawaii has some pretty good snorkeling. Place for spending time on a coral reef. It qualifies as one of the least visited national parks. 12,000 visits in 2023. Any guess as to who won the title? Gates of the Arctic. Inside the Arctic, so there's not even a hiking trail at Gates of the Arctic. It's a huge park, but there's no visitor center, there's no roads, there's not even a walking trail. It's complete wilderness. So this one's more of a of a hike to get to, but that's the same image, that beach they've used in their marketing for the Bali High. Come visit us. That's what's waiting for you at American Samoa. So that's our end of the Pacific parks. We'll be back. Next month, we're gonna do the ones you can drive to, the northeast. Now, what's that? Who decides? Well, that's a long end. The question is, who decides? It takes an act of what makes a national park. You weren't here in January. In January, we went through the different unit designations under the umbrella of the Park Service. There's national memorials, there's national recreation areas, there's national monuments, there's all different designations. The crown jewels are the 63 national parks, and it takes an act of Congress to create a national park. They have to vote it. The Interior Secretary will make its case, or the Director of the Park Service will go before Congress, make a case for what there is about this area that warrants protection and conservation. Congress votes up or down. If it's an up, it goes to the president, and the president signs it into being. There's only one national park in the Northeast in New England, so I know you're not normally going to consider Kentucky as the Northeast. I had to populate my hour-long talk with 6 parks. So if you divide the country into quarters, the Mississippi and the Mason-Dixon, these 6 parks are in the Northeast quadrant, if you will. So these are the ones that we're gonna go from Maine and then basically Appalachians. So that'll be the end of April. have I done, as in visited or as in presented? No, it's yet to come. The Northwest is coming. That's a fun one. People in Seattle are spoiled. They have 3 national parks within an hour's drive of Seattle. That's a great, good segue. If you want to go visit parks, so many people have come up at the end of my talks and said, how do I get you in my backpack, when I go to these places? Well, give the people what they want. My son Brooks and I started a company, SU Adventures. That's BDA. So I'm in a week, I'm heading off to New Mexico in 4 days, we're going to 3 national parks, White Sands, Carlsbad, and then we'll climb Guadalupe Peak down in Texas. Those are that's what I'm doing for 2025. Fun trips, all the logistics are done. I don't deal with flights. Everybody has miles or points or on different airlines. So we have a rendezvous spot. You meet us there, and then I pick you up in vans and we go off and visit parks. That's 2025, but people are making reservations so far in advance. I just posted my 2026 trips, all different destinations. So if you're up for national park travel, you'll find that there's a lot of baby boomers retiring, and they want to go, they now have the time and the money to go see these wondrous places. The parks are wrestling big time with trying to manage the numbers. And there's